Lyra shivered as she hugged herself in the dark corner of the old space station. The metal walls were cold, and the hum of the life support systems felt like the heartbeat of a place long forgotten. Outside, the stars blinked silently, endless and cold, while the planet below slowly died. She had been left behind, like so many others, when the human evacuation ships left months ago. The officials said there were no programs willing to take her, no families who wanted a silvery-skinned alien girl with violet eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. "No one will ever adopt me," she whispered, her voice trembling. She had said it so many times that even she could barely believe it anymore. Tears slid down her smooth cheeks, leaving streaks that glimmered faintly under the station lights. She pressed herself against a wall, trying to become invisible, hoping that nobody would find her. She had learned long ago that hope could be dangerous. It made disappointment hurt worse. Footsteps echoed down the narrow corridor, making her stiffen. She froze, her small body nearly melting into the shadows. She had been hiding for days, surviving on scraps left behind by scavengers. She had watched humans leave and come back only in stories told by older aliens, but none of them had ever stopped for her. Most ignored her, some laughed at her, and a few had tried to catch her, thinking her rare blood and glowing eyes were valuable. This time, the footsteps were different. Strong, steady, purposeful. Lyra peeked from the corner. A human appeared older, tall, and with a presence that was hard to ignore. His hair was streaked with gray, and his face was lined with fatigue, but there was a quiet strength about him. He carried himself like someone who had seen battles and survived them all. His name, she would soon learn, was Captain Elias Thorne. He didn't speak at first. He walked slowly, scanning the corridor. Lyra's heart raced, an instinct told her to run, but her legs felt frozen. Then, without warning, he crouched down, not aggressively, not threatening, just watching. He spoke softly, in a calm tone, "Hey, you're alone here, aren't you?" Lyra's eyes widened. Nobody had ever talked to her like that before. Usually, humans yelled, ordered, or ignored. She didn't answer. She only shook slightly, hoping he would go away. "I won't hurt you," the man continued. "I've been through places like this. I know what it's like to be left behind." Something in his voice made her pause. She had never heard kindness before, never in a real voice that wasn't fake or selfish. For a moment, she wanted to believe him, but fear was stronger. She darted down a side corridor, her small feet making a soft tapping sound on the metal floor. Elias didn't chase her immediately. He moved carefully, following at a distance, letting her see she wasn't being trapped. He had seen fear before, the kind that froze a person in place, and he knew that rushing her would only make it worse. Lyra ran through abandoned maintenance rooms, past broken panels and wires hanging like vines, her glowing eyes catching every shadow. She could hear him behind her, quiet and steady, not hunting but watching. Finally, she ducked into a narrow air vent, thinking she had escaped. She pressed herself against the metal, listening. The footsteps stopped. "You're smart," Elias said softly, his voice coming from the vent below. "But hiding forever won't help. You're going to have to trust someone if you want to survive." Lyra's heart pounded. Trust. She had tried before and had been betrayed. But there was something different about him, something she couldn't name. She stayed in the vent, listening to the silence, trying to calm her racing thoughts. Outside, the station creaked and groaned. Old metal shifted, and the hum of the life support faltered for a moment. Lyra hugged herself tighter. The station was dying slowly, just like the planet below. If she didn't leave soon, she wouldn't have a chance at all. The thought made her chest tighten. Then she heard him again, not walking, but sitting down nearby. "I'm not going anywhere," he said quietly. "I'm not here to take anything from you. I just want to make sure you're safe." Lyra's small fingers curled around the edge of the vent. Something inside her softened. Maybe, just maybe, there was one human who could help her. One who didn't see her as a prize, a curiosity, or a burden. One who saw her as her. The stars outside shone cold and distant, but inside the station, for the first time in a long time, Lyra felt the faintest spark of hope. It was fragile, like a single light in the darkness, but it was there. And she realized, quietly, to herself, that maybe, just maybe, her story wasn't over yet. Elias waited patiently, knowing that fear couldn't be rushed. And for the first time in a long time, Lyra thought that maybe someone would finally be there for her. Lyra stayed hidden in the vent, her small body trembling. She could hear Elias's quiet breathing nearby. Something about the sound was strange. It was calm, steady, almost like a shield against the emptiness of the abandoned station. She didn't know why, but she felt a tiny spark of trust. Just a little. After a few minutes, she finally crawled out, careful not to make a sound. She peeked around a corner and saw him sitting cross-legged on the floor. His eyes, sharp and gray, were focused on a broken control panel. He didn't look angry, didn't look disappointed. He looked patient. "I'm Elias," he said softly, as if he were speaking to himself, but somehow it felt like he was speaking to her too. "I've been through worse than this, Lyra. You don't have to be alone." Her eyes widened. How did he know her name? She had never told anyone. Her lips parted, ready to speak, but fear caught her again. Why do you care?" she whispered. Elias looked at her and smiled faintly. "Because no one deserves to be left behind. I've seen people, humans and aliens, abandoned, scared, forgotten. I know what it feels like. And I know what it feels like to find someone who cares. I don't want you to be alone." Lyra's heart thumped so loudly she was sure he could hear it. She didn't move. She didn't know if she should run or stay. Every instinct screamed that humans were dangerous, that they only cared about what they could gain. But something about him felt different. Before she could decide, a loud clang echoed from the corridor. Security drones, long inactive, had powered up. Their red sensors swept across the room, locking onto movement. Lyra froze, and Elias's eyes narrowed. "Stay behind me," he said quietly, standing slowly. His body moved with precision, like every step had been practiced 1,000 times. "Don't try to fight them. Just follow me." Lyra hesitated, but something about his calm made her move. She stepped behind him, small and quiet, as he assessed the situation. The drones were old, with sparks flying from damaged joints, but they were still dangerous. Elias didn't panic. He scanned the environment, noticing the exposed wiring, the broken panels, and the ventilation shafts. He whispered, "Watch me. Don't run. We can do this together." With that, he tossed a small metal piece to the floor. Sparks flew as it hit a wire, creating a sudden short circuit. One drone froze, its sensors blinking wildly. Lyra's eyes widened. He had done it without touching the drone. She felt a flicker of hope. Maybe humans were stronger than she thought. Elias moved swiftly, disabling the second drone with a quick hack of the station's old systems. Lyra couldn't believe her eyes. He was calm, precise, and careful not to hurt her. She realized then that he was protecting her, not himself. That realization made her chest tighten. "You see," he said softly once the drones were down. "You don't have to be afraid. I've got you." Lyra's lips trembled. She wanted to cry, to run into his arms, but fear held her back. Still, she took a small step closer. Why me?" she asked. "Because someone has to," Elias said, kneeling down to her level. His eyes met hers. "I can't fix everything in this galaxy, but I can help you. And that's enough." For the first time, Lyra felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: safety. Not the fake kind where people promise things and then leave. Real safety, where someone is willing to fight for you, even when it's hard. The station groaned around them. Metal bent, lights flickered, and the distant hum of life support wavered. Lyra realized that time was running out. If they stayed here much longer, the place could collapse. Elias stood and held out his hand. "Come on. We need to move before more drones wake up or before the station falls apart. Trust me, Lyra." She stared at his hand, small and trembling. Her fear screamed at her to run, to hide, to never let a human get this close again. But something inside her wanted to believe him. Slowly, she reached out and placed her tiny hand in his. The moment her fingers touched his, a warmth spread through her chest. She realized she had never held someone who wanted to protect her before. Never. And it felt safe. They moved together through the dark corridors, Elias guiding her, Lyra following, careful but steady. Every step they took, she felt a little braver. Every shadow passed without danger, she felt a little lighter. By the time they reached a more stable section of the station, Lyra glanced up at Elias. He was tired, his face grim, but he was smiling at her, small but genuine. She had never seen a human smile like that before. For the first time in her life, Lyra thought maybe, just maybe, not all humans were dangerous. Maybe some could be heroes. Maybe, just maybe, she could have someone who cared. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to hope. Lyra followed Elias through the narrow corridors, her small hand still gripping his. Every step made a faint metallic echo, and every shadow seemed to hide danger. But with Elias in front, calm and alert, she felt a spark of courage. For the first time, someone was guiding her, not hunting her, not ignoring her, but guiding her. They reached a larger room, one that had once been a storage bay. Broken crates and fallen panels littered the floor, but it was safer than the corridors. Elias motioned for her to sit. "Rest for a moment," he said. "We're not safe yet, but we need to think." Lyra sank onto the cold floor, hugging her knees. Her violet eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. She had so many questions, but words stuck in her throat. How did he find her? Why was he helping her? And most of all, why did he care? Elias knelt beside her. "I know you're scared," he said gently. "I know you've been hurt. But you can trust me. I won't leave you. I promise." The word trust made Lyra hesitate. She had tried trusting before, and it had always ended badly. But something about him was different. His eyes weren't cold or calculating. His voice wasn't loud or demanding. It was steady and kind. Slowly, she nodded, almost imperceptibly. "Good," Elias said with a small smile. "We're going to need some skills if we want to survive. This station isn't safe, and neither is the planet below. But together, we can make it." He taught her how to move quietly, how to listen for danger, and how to use the old station systems to their advantage. Lyra was a fast learner. Her alien reflexes helped her dodge debris, climb broken ladders, and squeeze into tight spaces. Elias watched her carefully, correcting her gently when she made mistakes, praising her when she succeeded. "You're doing great," he said one day as she managed to navigate a collapsed corridor without touching a single sharp piece of metal. "I've seen soldiers struggle with less." Lyra smiled faintly. She liked hearing that. Humans had always been strange to her, so loud, so clumsy, so fast to anger. But Elias was different. He had patience. He had strategy. He had kindness. They spent days like this, moving from safer room to safer room, learning from each other. Lyra began to mimic some of Elias's habits, checking corners, breathing quietly, even standing tall when she felt brave. Elias, in turn, started to notice her strengths. Her eyes could see faint lights that humans missed, her small hands could manipulate tools in tight spaces, and her instincts often warned him before danger appeared. One evening, as the station lights flickered, Lyra asked quietly, "Why are you helping me, Elias? You could leave. You could just survive alone." Elias leaned against a broken panel, looking out at the distant stars. "I've survived a lot," he said slowly. "Wars, disasters, failures. I've lost friends, seen people die, watched colonies fall. And I realized something. Survival is important, yes, but it's not enough. Sometimes, it's about what you do for others. And right now, you're someone who deserves help. Someone worth saving." Lyra's heart beat fast. Nobody had ever said anything like that to her. Nobody had ever looked at her as someone worth saving. She wanted to believe him, but fear still lingered. Still, she reached out and touched his arm lightly. I want to learn. I want to trust you," she whispered. Elias smiled. Then we'll start slowly. You'll learn to move, to survive, to be brave. And one day, you'll be able to protect yourself and others too. They train in the empty corridors for hours each day. Lyra learned to climb, to jump, to hide, and even to use simple tools to disable old drones or repair broken systems. Every time she succeeded, Elias cheered quietly, and her confidence grew. She began to feel capable, not helpless. One day, while practicing in a collapsed maintenance hall, Lyra spotted a small drone flickering to life in the distance. Her instincts screamed to run, but Elias's voice called her back. "Use what you've learned," he said calmly. Lyra took a deep breath, crouched low, and moved silently. She ducked behind a panel, threw a small piece of metal to distract it, and then slipped past while it investigated. When she rejoined Elias, her chest heaving, he gave her a proud nod. "Exactly like that. You're learning fast, Lyra. I'm proud of you." She smiled, a real smile, one that reached her glowing eyes. For the first time, she felt strong, capable, and hopeful. She realized that with Elias by her side, maybe she could survive the station. Maybe she could survive anything. That night, as they rested in a safer room, Lyra looked at him and whispered, almost to herself, maybe someone can care about me." Elias didn't respond with words. He just nodded once, quietly, letting her know that yes, someone did. And for the first time in her short life, Lyra allowed herself to believe that she wasn't alone anymore. Lyra and Elias had been moving through the station for days, but the danger never stopped. The old space station was failing faster than they had imagined. Sparks flew from broken panels, lights flickered, and sometimes the hum of life support wavered into silence. Every step was a risk. Every corner could hide more drones, or worse, scavengers who still came searching for anything valuable. One evening, as they navigated a long corridor filled with fallen beams, a sharp red light flashed ahead. Security drones, old, but still dangerous, had activated. Their sensors swept the hallway, locking onto movement. Lyra froze, her violet eyes wide. She wanted to run, but Elias grabbed her hand gently. "Stay close," he whispered. "Follow my lead. Don't panic." Lyra nodded, though her chest pounded. She had learned a lot from him, but nothing could prepare her for this moment. Elias crouched, scanning the environment. He spotted an overhead ventilation shaft. "We'll use that," he said quietly. "It's risky, but it's faster than trying to outrun them." Lyra swallowed hard. She had never climbed like this before, but she trusted him. Together, they slipped through the shadows and climbed into the shaft. It was narrow and cold, the metal pressing against their bodies. Sparks from damaged wires crackled below, making Lyra jump. Elias held her close, steadying her. "You're doing fine," he said softly. "Keep going." They moved slowly, carefully, through the dark shaft. Lyra's small hands gripped the edges, her muscles straining, but she felt stronger than ever. Elias's voice guided her, telling her where to place her hands and feet, how to keep her balance, how to stay calm. Halfway through, a drone's red sensor swept the area below. Lyra held her breath. She could hear its mechanical whir as it scanned for movement. Elias froze too, then whispered, "Wait, now." They slipped down a small side vent, landing in a storage bay. Dust rose in tiny clouds around them. Lyra's legs shook, but Elias was there, steady and calm. "You see," he said with a small smile. "You did it. You stayed calm. That's what matters." Lyra's chest heaved. She realized how much she had learned from him. She could move silently, think clearly, and even face fear without running. She looked up at Elias and saw pride in his eyes. For the first time, someone was proud of her, not for what she was, but for what she could do. Their moment of relief was short-lived. A group of scavengers had found their trail. Their boots clanged on the metal floor as they entered the bay. Lyra froze. Elias pushed her behind a crate. "Quiet," he whispered. "Let me handle this." He stepped into the open, his body relaxed but alert. The scavengers stopped when they saw him. He was tall, his gray eyes sharp and unwavering, and there was a confidence about him that made them hesitate. "Back off," he said calmly. "She's under my protection." The leader sneered. "A human protecting an alien? How noble. Too bad we don't care." Before they could move closer, Elias acted. With precise movements, he kicked over a crate, creating a barrier, then used a nearby panel to trigger sparks and smoke. The scavenger stumbled, coughing, blinded by the sudden chaos. Lyra watched in awe. Elias moved like a force of nature, every action calculated, every move protecting her. "Now," he yelled, grabbing her hand. Together, they ran through a side corridor. Lyra ducked under pipes, jumped over fallen beams, and sprinted with everything she had. Elias stayed close, guiding her, clearing the path, and even taking small risks to shield her from danger. They reached the docking bay, where an old shuttle rested, unused but functional. Elias quickly checked the controls. "It'll work, barely," he said. "But it's our only chance." Lyra climbed in first, her hands shaking. Elias followed, closing the hatch behind them. He started the engines. Sparks flew from the control panel, and the shuttle shuddered violently. Lyra gripped the seat, her violet eyes wide. "Hold on," Elias said. "We're getting out of here." The shuttle lifted, the engines roaring as it escaped the station. Below them, the old station creaked and groaned. Metal twisted and sparks flew. Then, with a loud shudder, a section of the station collapsed, falling into the planet's atmosphere. Lyra gasped, her hand instinctively finding Elias's. He looked at her and smiled, tired but victorious. "We made it," he said. "You did amazing." Lyra blinked back tears. I thought I'd never survive," she whispered. "You survived," Elias said. "And you didn't just survive, you learned, you fought, and you trusted. That's more than most can do." For the first time, Lyra felt something she had never felt before. Safety, pride, and hope all mixed together. She realized that with Elias by her side, she could face anything. Together, they had escaped a place that had felt like a death trap. Together, they could survive anything the galaxy threw at them. As the stars stretched outside the shuttle's window, Lyra rested her head against Elias's shoulder. She knew the journey wasn't over. There would be more dangers, more challenges. But she also knew something else: she was no longer alone. And that made all the difference. The shuttle hummed quietly as it drifted through space, leaving the crumbling station behind. Lyra sat near the window, her small hands pressed against the glass. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction, but this time, they didn't feel cold or empty. They felt like a promise of safety, of hope, of something new. Elias sat beside her, his eyes on the controls but his attention also on her. "We're almost at a safe colony," he said softly. "It's not much, but it's a place where you can stay, learn, and grow. You won't be alone anymore." Lyra turned to him, her violet eyes wide. "Really? People will adopt me?" she asked, her voice trembling. She had heard those words before, from people who had promised and then left. But something in Elias's voice made her want to believe. "Yes," he said firmly. "I've already contacted them. They know about you, and they're waiting. You won't have to hide or run. You'll be safe." Lyra's chest tightened. For so long, she had believed she would never belong anywhere. She had whispered to herself in the dark, "No one will ever adopt me." But now, for the first time, she felt a glimmer of something she thought she'd lost forever: hope. The shuttle began its descent toward the colony, a small human settlement built on the surface of a green and blue planet. The colony was simple, with low buildings and open spaces, but it felt alive. People moved about, talking, laughing, and working together. Lyra pressed her face closer to the glass, watching humans and aliens mingle, sharing smiles and gestures of kindness. Elias guided the shuttle down, landing it gently near a group of children playing in a courtyard. One of them noticed them first, a small boy with bright eyes, who ran over to see the new arrivals. Lyra stayed close to Elias, unsure of what to expect. A woman approached, her smile warm and gentle. "You must be Lyra," she said. "I'm Mira. We've been expecting you. You're safe here." Lyra blinked, speechless. She had imagined kindness, but she had never believed it could reach her. And yet, here it was, real and tangible. She looked up at Elias, who gave her a small nod. "See? I told you," he whispered. For the first time, Lyra stepped out of the shuttle alone. Her feet touched the soft ground, and she felt the sun, or what passed for sunlight here, on her face. It was a sensation she had forgotten. The warmth made her shiver, but in a good way. It reminded her that life could be gentle, that not everything was danger and fear. Mira knelt to her level. "You can live here, learn, and grow. You'll have friends, people who care, and a home that's yours. No one will leave you behind again." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She had never felt anything like this. She wanted to speak, but words caught in her throat. Instead, she reached for Elias's hand, holding it tightly. He smiled, a quiet, proud smile. "You've come a long way, Lyra," he said. "You've survived, learned, and grown. You're stronger than you think. And now, you belong." Lyra let out a small laugh, the sound soft but full of relief. She realized that her life could be different, that she didn't have to whisper in the dark anymore. She didn't have to hide. She had someone who believed in her, who fought for her, and who had shown her that humans could be heroes, not just strangers or threats. The colony welcomed her with open arms. Children ran to her, curious about her glowing violet eyes, and adults smiled kindly, introducing themselves. She even met other aliens who had found homes here, who taught her new games, languages, and stories. Over the next days, Lyra learned to laugh again, to play, to talk freely without fear. She practiced her skills, using the training Elias had given her, but now in a safe space. She discovered she could help others, just like he had helped her. Each small task, each new friend, built her confidence. One evening, as the colony's twin suns set, painting the sky in gold and violet, Lyra stood beside Elias on a small hill overlooking the settlement. She looked at the lights, at the people moving below, and then at him. "Thank you," she whispered. "For everything." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to thank me," he said. "You did this yourself. I just helped you see what was already inside you." Lyra smiled, feeling a warmth she had never known. She realized that one human, one kind, brave, patient human had changed her entire life. And because of him, she now had a future she could look forward to. That night, Lyra slept soundly in her new home, her small hands resting on a soft blanket. For the first time, she didn't fear being abandoned. She didn't fear the stars or the cold metal of space. She knew that humans could be heroes, that courage and kindness could change destinies. And for the first time in her life, she dreamed not of running or hiding, but of laughing, learning, and living. Because sometimes, all it takes is one human to rewrite an entire life.